Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. So many of us believe that we all have some type of psychic ability. Others are able to tune into it a little bit better, or maybe it's a process of tuning things out of our lives so that we can focus on our psychic ability. But there's something else that apparently comes into play, and that is your imagination. That needs to be strong if you're going to tap into what you've been given in terms of a psychic gift. We are going to look at that today. I'm intrigued. I'm trying to figure it out, but that's why I call upon an expert. She's an animal communicator and a psychic, and I've learned so much from her in terms of communicating with my animals. Yes, it does work. She teaches this. She gives insight. Shirley Scott is back with us. Hey, Shirley, how you doing?
I'm doing well, Steve, and you?
Very well.
Good.
Intrigued about what we're going to talk about today because I do believe that we have psychic ability within.
We do. Everybody does.
I'm trying to connect the imagination part of it, and I'm coming up a little short in terms of how that works.
Okay. Imagination, people will say, oh, I think that I saw something out of the corner of my eye. Oh, I must have imagined it.
Mm.
Well, you can't imagine it if it's not there, because our brain isn't wired that way. Our brain is, like a computer, and there has to be some input. It has to learn something, whether it's from our subconscious or our soul. Our brain has to learn something, because, when we die, we leave our brain behind. But imagination, actually, I looked it up years ago, and I couldn't find it on the computer a day or two ago. But it used to mean image and energy. And so if something is not there in some form of energy, your brain won't pick it up. It won't see it. It doesn't know it. It's like if you don't believe in UFOs, you're never going to see one because you're not allowing your brain to be open to it. So imagination is directly linked to psychic ability because you have to have both of them open enough to see or experience or feel the psychic energy, because your imagination will kick in and help you imagine it or see it. There's another meaning of imagination, which is image in oneself. It's an image of what you think things are and what you see them as. One person might see a ghost and see it as something scary, and another person might see it as something, really cool. So, but imagination, if you don't have an imagination, you're going to have a really boring life. And so imagination is in the energy of whatever is around us is there in some form. We see it, whether we sense it, whether we just know it, whatever that feeling is our intuition and our imagination.
So, if you're doing something psychic connected, do you bring it up in your imagination to get the information? Let me give an example because this is fresh on my mind. Let's see if this even connects here. So, and it's turned into a little bit of a running joke. So, there's a local little pub restaurant that me and my best friend have been going to since we were in our 20s. And they have just really cheap, like maybe once a week, maybe every other week. And we just, would just talk and, great burger for not even kidding, $1. And they also, if you order a drink, let's say you get a beer, they give you a pull tab card, number between 1 and 5, and they open it up and you could pay nothing. You could pay 10 cents. You could pay half price. You could pay full price. So every time I'm in there and they have the card in front of me, I've ordered, and I was there just yesterday, and they say, okay, what number do you want? And I said, hold on just a moment, please. I close my eyes and I imagine those numbers 1 through 5. And in my imagination, I go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What did I get? Nothing standing out. Let me go back up again. 4, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I will see a number stand out. And then I pick that number. Yesterday, my entire bill was 10 cents because I picked number 4, and that's what came up. And I find it works every time as long as somebody is not in back of me and, they're waiting and I feel bad. So I just like blurt any number, and usually I'm wrong. But when I'm intentional about it, I get half price food. I get 10-cent food or nothing. That imagination thing where I see the number and I'm imagining the numbers and then one stands out. Is that kind of what we're talking about here? I hope I didn't lose you. Come back. I think we have and you know what? I'm not surprised because anytime we talk with somebody who is intuitive, we have these problems in terms of technology. What we're going to do is take a short break and come right back.
This is a car. No matter how much you kiss your lucky frog, wish on a star, or do that thing you gotta do to get it to start, your car will eventually break down. And those repairs could cost you thousands, but not if you have Car Shield, like I do.
Car Shield is America's #1 auto protection company. Their administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and cover most vehicles from 5,000 to 150,000 miles.
I trust Car Shield administrators to pay your claims just like they paid mine.
I know cars break down. I don't want to pay for expensive repairs. That's why I have Car Shield.
Let's keep it real. No one wants to get stuck with unexpected car repairs. Have you looked at how expensive those can be? From the stress of the breakdown, getting towed, and then you're hit with the bill? It's basically a nightmare scenario, and nobody wants that.
With coverage through Car Shield's administrators, you'll receive 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental reimbursement at no additional charge. Plus, with Car Shield's nationwide coverage network, you can choose the mechanic or dealership of your choice no matter where you are.
I've been a Car Shield customer for close to 7 years, had 3 vehicles covered, and they saved me close to $9,000.
The best thing about Car Shield is just about everyone can afford coverage with no long-term commitment. So there's no more excuses why you haven't picked up the phone and called. At the end of the day, when it comes to your car breaking down, Car Shield has got your back like nobody else I know.
If you're driving without a warranty, you have to call Car Shield.
Yeah, you do. I drive with Car Shield because they're the real deal. Do yourself a favor and give them a call today. Tell them I sent you. And remember, Car Shield cars go farther.
Protect yourself now against expensive auto repair bills. Call Car Shield for a free and instant protection plan quote. Once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126. 800-908-6126.
All right, we're jumping back with Shirley Scott, animal communicator and psychic. We're talking about using your imagination to enhance your psychic ability. And I gave an example of going to a restaurant where they have this little gimmick. It's after you order, they give you a card with numbers on it, 1 to 5, and then you give them a number, and they pull a tab, and then that's what you pay. And more times than not, when I use my imagination and I visualize the right number to pick, I pay 10 cents. It sounds like a running joke. Am I really using my imagination, Sarah, to help with picking that number?
You really are. You really are, Steve. Your imagination, you're imagining that what is going to happen. And so that is completely tied in with your psychic ability. And you had said, too, that, if somebody's behind you and you try to hurry through it, you're usually wrong, where if you sit and really imagine those numbers and imagine something that's going to come up with that number, say number 5 and it's 10 cents, you are kicking in with your imagination and your psychic ability. And if somebody's standing behind you, you're going to imagine that they are waiting and they're going to be pissed off or they're upset and so you're allowing that energy to filter into what you're trying to do. And that's one thing about imagining things and or your psychic ability is you cannot let somebody else's energy influence that, or you lose it. It kind of just goes away because you are tapping into somebody else's energy and you're feeling you're imagining what you think they're feeling. Now, most of the time you're going to be right, but it's also, you're also tapping into their energy, so you're not focusing on those numbers right in front of you at that time.
100%. I really am. When somebody is in back of me I feel like I'm rushed, I'm thinking about them. So you're right. I'm focusing on them. I don't even know who they are. I can barely even see them. I just know they're standing in back of me, so I picture a visual. I get a visualization of somebody just waiting to place their order while I need like literally 10 seconds. Just
right.
and I close my eyes to block everything else out and just go through the numbers. But I have to do it in real time. The person is, the server's holding the card. I have to do it then. I can't do it in advance. I've tried it. It doesn't work. And I'm serious when I tell you, I'll go there with my friend and, I'll walk back with everything after paying for it. And he goes, "What happened?" I was like, we're paying full price tonight. And I said, there was somebody in back of me. I couldn't do it. But yesterday, there was nobody in back of me. And I even said to the server, I said, "I need a second." And she got it. She actually was like, we even had a little spiritual conversation there for a moment.
Yeah. Well, imagination is an image and energy. It's like, and you can take your imagination, your psychic ability, your intent, all of that, and you put them all together, and you are manifesting something that you want or that you need. So all of those things that we have in our body and in our energy field that are the unseen factors, the intent and the imagination and all of that, they're unseen and people don't actually believe in them, but we do them every day because, it's like just like we intend to walk up the hill. There's an intention there. We don't think about it, but that's what we're intending to do.
Wow.
And we can imagine ourselves walking up that hill. And the imagination comes also into play when you are giving messages to animals telepathically because you're imagining them doing something. And so they get that message through that picture because your imagination is showing them this is what we want done with the intent behind it.
Yeah, the whole picture is coming clear now because we've talked before about communicating with our animals, and telepathically, I've gotten answers and insight by visualizing, imagination again, something and sending it to my dog and my cats, different situations. So what if you want to get insight on something? Using your psychic abilities, and when I say you, I mean all of us. What do you visual like? Maybe we get, and maybe you could have an example. Like, I want to know if this business I'm starting is going to work out well. Is it going to be successful? And you want to get that answer. How do you use your psychic abilities to connect with that, and then follow up here? Or should you just manifest that it's going to be fantastic?
That's basically what you want to do. You can look at what you are doing on a physical level to make the business successful, but you also have to put into it the intent behind it to keep that energy going. And there are some businesses that are not going to make it. I mean, there just are some, and most people will sit with that, and they will, if you can see what's going on in the business and what's going on around you, you can pretty much tell if that business is going to make it or not. But you've got to imagine it going to be successful. You've got your intent, and then if you sit with it and yet you still get this, oh no, in the pit of your stomach, you need to listen to it. You need to listen to it because that is telling you that this business is not going to be successful. And a lot of people will say, no, I'm going to make this successful. And they start walking into brick walls. So the imagination and the intent just go so hand in hand, because you've got to see it in your mind before it can even be manifested with the intent behind it. So in a business sense, you have to look at what you have done to make that business work. And in business, you've got to even see if there's a want out there for it or a need for it, and not be so set in stone that this is the way you're going to do it, because business changes, and you've got to be open to change. A lot of people hate change, but that's the only thing that stays the same in life is change. And without change, there's no growth, there's no development. So when you sit with this idea, you really have to see it being successful with the intent. But if you get a no, then I would really listen to that.
And I'm right there with you. I am working on a new venture, and with my partner and myself, hired somebody last week, and it seemed like it was going to be great. Like just everything, just fantastic. And then we started getting a feeling, both of us, and I came to one point. It was almost, I was standing at the edge of the cliff, and I jumped off, and I thought, this person's not going to work out. It's not going to work out. We got another day, and sure enough, that was the end of it. With that person. It was almost like a moment of clarity where it just hit me over the head. Like, no, this is not the answer. And then wouldn't you know it, as soon as the relationship with that person ended, somebody else materialized. And at this juncture, seems like it's fantastic. And I have a feeling this person is going to be amazing in this role. It's funny how, the energy shifted, moving one away so the other could get in.
Well, and that's what we have to understand is it's even like in a breakup, of a relationship. If you don't break it off and be done with it, then chances are you're not going to have anybody else come in, because there's still that energy thread. So with this person that you just, all of a sudden, your soul said, it's not going to work. And you knew that you needed to break it off completely. And then somebody else shows up. But you have to look at our energy breaks also. If you're going to get a divorce, you need to break it off, with them and get that divorce, not only on paper, but in energetic. And, sometimes that's hard when you have kids and stuff, but you can still, energetically break up with them and say, we're just here for the kids and that's it, and then somebody else will magically appear. So it's fun how all this energy, this unseen stuff, people don't believe in, but it applies to us every second of every day.
Oof. How can we harness the power even further using our imagination? Like maybe even come up with a scenario?
Practice.
Okay.
When I used to see things, spirits coming through walls, or, I still, at times will look out on my front porch and, a Native American standing there and stuff. And you can't say to yourself, that's not happening, because that's shutting down your imagination right away. You can't say that. Like I say, if you don't believe in flying saucers, you're never going to see one. They say that the Mayans never saw the Spaniards coming because they couldn't imagine a ship like the Spaniards had. They'd never seen it, and they never saw them until they were, like, in front of them, like on land. So you have to have this open imagination that anything out there is possible, whether you actually see it or not. You can feel it, you can hear it, you can know it without the eyes actually seeing it. So to use more of your imagination and to use more of imagining things so you're sending telepathic messages out there, that is going to open up your imagination. And then make sure that your intent behind it is a good one, because you don't want to create bad karma. But make sure that the intent is I'm imagining this business, and my intent is to not only make a living for myself and my family, but to help others in some way. And so you can add those intents behind the imagination, and that's where a lot of, inventors will come up with stuff is their imagination. I mean, it comes to them out of the blue because they have imagined, like a battery. How would you make a battery? Einstein, I think it was Einstein or somebody that invented the battery, and he made 300 of them that didn't work. And somebody went to him and said, how does it feel to be a failure 300 times? And he said, what do you mean? I didn't fail. I learned 300 ways not to make a battery.
Interesting. I've been studying Tesla, Nikola Tesla.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look into what he was doing, he was imagining everything he created. He had his own manifestation processes, like it had to pass the 369 rule where everything is divisible by those numbers. Right. But, many do believe also that he's the one that invented electric. He did it. He was working in partnership with Edison, and Edison got the credit, but he was the king, I think, the king of manifestation. What is manifestation? Is it really our imagination?
It is, and it's bringing it into reality. If you look at some of the space shows from, the 70s, all the things that there are now real, almost flying cars and cars that are driving themselves and, computers even, all of that was somebody's imagination that, I want to build something like this. So they start imagining it, and they start, going with the intent of this is what I want to do. And so they just, each day they take one step toward that. They take one step here and one step there in their imagination of, we already have some facts over here that we know work, but if we take those components and put it in a different way, then it will make something different. Concrete has always been on Earth. It just took somebody going, well, if we take this rock and that rock and put it together, it's going to make concrete. And that is our imagination, imagining what we can do with what we already have and how to put it together differently.
Wow. See, I'm struggling. We're almost out of time, but I want to make the differentiate here, if there is an opportunity to do so. Imagination, manifestation, they go hand in hand. They're pretty much married to each other.
Absolutely.
Now, imagination for using your psychic ability and getting answers and looking into the future. Once again, how do you use your imagination to get that information?
Because it's hard to explain. That information will come in a way that some people think that they are hearing things that's their imagination. Like they'll hear an answer to their question and they think they're imagining it. But it's not. It's actually your psychic ability coming in. And you have to say, if I can imagine it, it's real.
So final question on that. You want to get an answer, whatever it might be. Whatever, you're using your intuition, your psychic ability. You visualize a situation. This is where I'm trying to go here, where you don't want to change the situation. You just want to get information. What's going to happen? What's happening there? Do you visualize those things? Do you visualize just, let's say a person? You want to know if they are, honest and true. You're going to use your psychic ability. What would you visualize for? Well, let's say in that hypothetical instance, what would you visualize to use your intuition or psychic ability to find out who they are?
Well, what I would do is I would sit down and I would visualize them in my head and see them, and then I would allow either a color to come in that would tell me, like, oh, dark color would be like, ooh, they're maybe not a good person. Or I would listen to what came through when I'm visualizing them with my imagination in my mind. Because when you do that, the energy that you're creating is going to come in, and you're going to figure it out. You're either going to feel it or see it, and there's going to be warning signs and all sorts of things that are going to come into your mind about that person because you're sitting there with your imagination, visualizing their energy.
So what I believe I've gotten from you is just by imagining that person, no preconceived notion whatsoever. You're focusing your attention on them instead of a cup of coffee that's next to you.
Exactly, just like you're focusing on that tab instead of the person behind you.
Right. Okay, fair enough. and that said, next time if we ever get together in person and you're out, in the New York area, dinner's on me because it's going to be free.
That's right. And I'll leave the 10-cent tip. Okay.
Oh yeah. It's just fun. It's almost like a game, to see if it works. But I am telling you, more times than not, when I use my imagination with no distraction, out of those, and there's probably only 2 wins on, so it's like 2 out of 5 on those tabs.
Mm-hmm.
I get them.
Yeah.
It's cool. Yeah. Fantastic talking with you today, Shirley. You're the best way to reach you is your website, shirley-scott.com. And you offer lessons, insights, certainly. If somebody wants to communicate with their animals, you'll do that for them. And also, as I've learned, you can teach that as well.
That's right. So get hold of me and we can, whether it's for your pet or yourself, and we can go into insights for you.
Love it. Thank you so much for being here again today.
Okay, thanks, Steve.
Appreciate it. We'll be right back.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her.
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge.
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend.
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.